house covered in blood. A missing woman. Children left behind. And a spouse on a business trip while all this is happening. My dear intelligent viewers, and that person who will listen to this unsolved, intriguing case with the mindset of a detective, I look forward to your theories in the comments about what happened to this woman. Perhaps we can provide the logical explanation they couldn't. Without further ado, let's take a look at this real-life event. My ultra-intelligent conclusions are at the end of the video. Enjoy the show. Let me quickly tell you about Joan Risch, the main character in this story. Knowing a little about his life might help you solve the case. Joan Risch was born on May 12, 1930, in Brooklyn, New York. He and his family moved to New Jersey when he was 9 years old. However, in 1940, when Joan was only 10 years old, his family lost their lives in a suspicious fire at their home. Joan was then placed with a foster family, but things didn't go well there either. When the stepfather of the family to whom the girl was given as a foster child sexually abused Joan, experienced another tragic event and was adopted by his uncle. We can say that this was a safe haven for Joan. She enrolled at Wilson College in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, and graduated from the English Literature Department in 1952. His actual goal was to go into publishing, but he was able to get a job as an editorial assistant at a company. She worked there for a while, then left to join another company where he met Martin Risch and left his job. They married in 1956. His surname was no longer Bart, but Risch. In 1959, their first child Lillian was born. 2 years after the birth of their daughter Lillian, their son David was born in 1961. Meanwhile, the couple moved to Lincoln, Massachusetts, near Boston. According to those around them, they were a sociable family. They got along easily with their neighbors and community and formed close bonds. Joan even became an active member of the Women's Suffrage Association. She then started working at a paper company. Her plan was to become a teacher once his children were a little older. But while days passed in this typical family atmosphere, that day arrived. Now let me tell you in detail what happened to this sweet family on October 24, 1961. It was around 6 to 7 in the morning. While the little members of the Risch family were asleep, Martin and John woke up to the sound of an alarm. Martin had to go on a business trip. He went to Logan Airport to catch the 8 a.m. flight. The plan was to go to New York and then spend the night in Manhattan. After seeing his wife off, Joan prepared breakfast as she did every morning, woke up the children and fed them. That day, their 4-year-old daughter Lillian had a dentist appointment. After breakfast, Joan dropped off his 2-year-old son David at the home of their neighbor across the street, Barbara Baker. She and Lillian got into their blue 1951 Chevrolet and headed to the dentist. After the checkup, Joan took his daughter to a few stores and returned home with her around 11 a.m. According to statements taken later, employees at the stores they visited said that both Joan and Lillian seemed to be in good spirits. The daily mail and milk were delivered while they were out. Neither the milkman nor the mailman noticed anything unusual or out of the ordinary at the house that day. He also picked up his son, whom he had left with his neighbor. Around 11:15 a.m., a dry cleaner came to the house to pick up Martin's suits. He entered the house, picked up the suits, and left. He also stated in his statement that he did not see anything unusual. Everything pointed to a day that seemed normal. Joan prepared lunch and fed her children again. She took David upstairs to his room to put him down for his afternoon nap and put him to sleep. Her neighbor Barbara's son Douglas came over, and he and Joan's daughter Lillian started playing. Joan went outside to do some pruning in the garden while the children played. Around 1 p.m., Joan took the children playing to Barbara's house across the street and said she would be back shortly. Everything seemed normal that day. Joan prepared lunch and fed her children again. She took David upstairs to put him down for his afternoon nap and put him to sleep. Her neighbor Barbara's son, Douglas, came over and started playing with Joan's daughter, Lillian. Joan went out front to take care of the pruning work in the garden while the children played. Around 1 p.m., Joan took the children playing and brought them across to Barbara's house, saying he would be back shortly. The children started playing in Barbara's backyard. David was still asleep upstairs. About 15 minutes later, Barbara claimed to have seen John leaving the house wearing a trench coat, carrying something red in his arms from the garage. Although she noticed Joan looked dazed and was walking quickly, she didn't think much of it, assuming he was running after David, but that would be the last time anyone saw John. About 2.5 hours after Joan left his children with his neighbor at 3:40 p.m., the neighbor sent Lillian, who was playing in the backyard, home, saying she had things to do with her own children. When she sent Lillian away, she naturally assumed John was at home. But about half an hour after Barbara sent the child away, at around 4 o'clock or 4:15 p.m., Lillian ran back to Barbara's house and said her mother wasn't home and that the kitchen was covered in red paint. When Barbara went into the house to check on Joan, David was crying in his crib upstairs. A neighbor who went to the kitchen looking for Joan noticed the blood on the floor and called the police at 4:33 p.m. to report the situation. The police arrived at the scene 5 minutes later. Sergeant Mike began the initial investigation. There was blood on the floor and walls. The home phone had been ripped from the wall and thrown in the trash, and the dining table and chairs had been overturned. It was thought that a struggle had taken place. The blood on the floor was found to be the same blood type as the victims. However, due to the technology available at the time, it was impossible to determine definitively whose blood was in the house. Investigators determined that the amount of blood was approximately half a liter and was not enough to cause a life-threatening injury. It seemed as if someone had tried to make the situation appear much worse than it actually was. Another clue was that despite the blood spatter, there were no bloody footprints. In other words, whoever was responsible for the incident was very careful with their steps to ensure they did not get blood on themselves. The police were also unable to determine whether the incident started in the kitchen or began upstairs and continued into the kitchen and garage. This was because the bloodstains led both to the upper floor and to the garage. At first, the police thought Joan had committed suicide, but the woman's body was not found. The search area was then expanded, and nearby hospitals were instructed to notify the police if a woman matching Joan's description came in. Attempts were then made to contact the woman's husband, Martin, who was away on a business trip. The company where he worked was contacted, and Martin was called back after being informed of the incident. The police found 4 letters that had been delivered to the mailbox, but never taken into the house. Joan's fabric jacket was missing, but her trench coat and bag were still at home. Another strange thing found was several empty beer bottles in the kitchen trash can. There was also an empty liquor bottle, but Martin said they had drunk the liquor with his wife the night before and that he knew nothing about the empty beer bottles. As the investigation continued, one of the detectives noticed the couple's bookcase. There were about 25 books on murder and missing persons. One of the books even contained details that closely resembled the situation at hand, describing how a woman left behind bloodstains and a bloody towel before disappearing. Joan's husband, Martin, said his wife was interested in mystery novels and enjoyed these kinds of themes. And the confusion surrounding the case continued. Now let's move on to speculations about what might have happened to Joan in this unsolved case. Several witnesses claim to have seen Joan around 2:45 p.m. on the day of the incident. They say the woman they saw was wearing a trench coat like the one Joan wore, had a scarf on her head, and appeared hunchbacked, disheveled, and cold. But remember, the trench coat was found at home. Another report states that a woman wearing clothes similar to the jacket and outfit Joan was wearing was seen walking on the edge of a park between 3:15 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. with blood running down her legs. The reporters also claimed that this woman appeared confused and was holding something at stomach level. At 4:30 p.m., a report was filed stating that a woman matching the same description was walking along the side of the road shown in the photo you see now. Furthermore, at least a dozen calls from an unknown woman were received at his in-laws' house a month after the incident. Although Joan's father-in-law answered these calls each time, the caller, who he understood to be a woman, refused to speak to him. On the day the father-in-law reported the incident, one of the neighbors received a phone call from a very excited woman. Interestingly, the caller asked who was answering the phone at her own house and what the man was doing there. This intriguing detail is also included in the file. Looking at the theories surrounding this incident, Joan's close friends say that this woman seemed like someone who loved her children very much and would never consider abandoning them. The reason for this statement is that it is thought that the woman, as is possible, ran away of her own accord and made it look like she had been murdered. Another possibility is a somewhat far-fetched claim that Joan was actually walking along the road I just showed you in the photo, fell into a pit dug for construction work, lost consciousness, and was accidentally covered up without anyone noticing. Now let's get to the claim that I also see as highly probable. According to this claim, Joan had cheated on her husband and become pregnant, but abortion was illegal in those years. Joan either tried to abort her own child or made an arrangement with someone to have the child removed. They used the alcohol from the empty beer cans in the trash or whatever tools they had to sterilize whatever they were going to use. But the situation got out of control or something went wrong. The person with Joan panicked and tried to take the phone from the wall to call an ambulance, but Joan stopped them, thinking the situation would escalate and her husband or even her neighbors would find out. She took the phone apart and threw it in the trash. What her neighbor Barbara said she saw in her stomach was Joan's illegitimate child. At the same time, the fact that she was seen walking down the street with blood running down her legs seems to confirm this possibility. Of course, these are all just thoughts. Their accuracy has never been proven. Maybe Joan just wanted to escape from her home and did it with a bad plan. Joan never showed up, and her case is still unsolved. Yes, as I said at the beginning of the video, it's up to you. Maybe you noticed something I missed. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like these crime stories, don't forget to mention it in the comments. Oh, and thanks for the 400 subscribers. If you liked the video, you can like it and subscribe. I'm Whisper Files. As always, see you in the next video. Take care.